Close your eyes for a moment. Picture a Saturday morning in 1973. You have got a few coins warming in your pocket, pennies you saved all week. The shop bell jingles as you push open the door, and that smell hits you first. Sugar and paper bags and something sweet you cannot quite name but will never forget. Glass jars line the shelves like treasure chests. Behind the counter stands Mrs. Palmer or whoever ran your corner shop. They knew your name. They knew your favorites. You would stand there heart racing, deciding how to spend your fortune. The whole world waited in those jars. These are not just memories. They are the bones of who you became. Today we count down 15 British sweets we would give anything to taste one more time. Later, we will reveal a chocolate bar so extraordinary it could fold space and time. Welcome back to the channel. If you spent your Saturday pennies in shops like this, then you are exactly where you belong. Hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments which sweet you miss the most. Now let us step back through that shop door one more time. The year is 1954. Rationing has finally ended. Britain is hungry for sweetness again. And onto the shelves comes a little tube of fruit-flavored sweets that would become legendary for all the wrong reasons. Polo fruits, orange, lemon, blackcurrant, strawberry. Each one a tiny disc of chewy, fruity joy. But here is what everyone remembers. These were quite possibly the stickiest sweets ever created in human history. Drop one on your car seat, and you would take half the upholstery with it when you tried to pick it up. They lasted for nearly 70 years before Nestlé finally pulled them from shelves in 2023. 70 years of stuck fingers and ruined fabrics and absolute deliciousness. Some things are worth the mess. Polo fruits were definitely worth the mess, and now they are gone. Just like that. Opal fruits. Say that name to anyone over 45 and watch their eyes light up. Made to make your mouth water. That was the slogan, and it was absolutely true. Lemon, orange, strawberry, lime. 4 flavors in a little packet that tasted like summer holidays and birthday parties and everything good about being young in Britain. They launched in 1960, and for nearly 4 decades they were perfect exactly as they were. Then, in 1998, the Americans decided we needed to call them Starburst instead. Same sweets, they said, just a different name. But it was not the same. It could never be the same. You cannot just erase a name that meant something to millions of people. Opal fruits were ours. They belonged to rainy afternoons and school trips and your nan keeping a packet in her handbag. Starburst belongs to nobody. Some of us have never forgiven them. We probably never will. In 1967, you could walk into any newsagent in Britain and ask for a marathon. 23 pence of peanuts and caramel and nougat wrapped in chocolate. It was substantial. It was satisfying. It was ours. Then in 1990, they decided we had to call it Snickers instead, to match the Americans, to make things simpler for the corporations. But nothing about this was simple for us. A marathon was something you earned, something you savored after a long day. A Snickers is just a chocolate bar. The wrapper changed. The feeling changed. Something ineffable was lost. They say the recipe stayed the same, but we know the truth. When you change the name, you change the memory. And memory is everything. Now we come to something that technically still exists. But exists is a strong word for what they have done to it. The Sherbet fountain first appeared in 1925. A cardboard tube filled with fizzy sherbet powder with a stick of licorice poking out the top like a fuse on a stick of dynamite. The whole thing looked dangerous and exciting and absolutely delicious. You were supposed to use the licorice as a straw to suck up the sherbet. Nobody ever managed it. The licorice went soggy. The sherbet went everywhere. You ended up tipping the whole thing into your mouth and getting white powder all over your school jumper. It was perfect chaos. It was a perfect childhood. And now they have put it in a plastic tube with a sealed cap. For freshness, they say, but they have taken away the joy of that cardboard tube. The anticipation of peeling back the paper. Modern sherbet fountains are sensible, and nobody ever loved anything sensible. The Nutty bar, made by Roundtree sometime in the 1970s. And here is what made it extraordinary. There was no chocolate. None at all. Just a bar of soft fudge covered in chewy caramel, completely encrusted with unsalted peanuts. The advertising slogan was, "You cannot see the fudge for the nuts," and they were not lying. The whole thing was wrapped in crinkly brown cellophane so you could see exactly what you were getting. It vanished in the 1980s. Nobody seems to know exactly why. People have tried to recreate it. There is an American bar called Payday that comes close but uses salted peanuts, which changes everything. The original Nutty bar remains lost, a legend whispered about in sweet shop forums and Facebook groups dedicated to lost confectionery. Some treasures once lost are lost forever. Toffo first appeared in the 1930s under a different name. Toffo Lux, they called it back then. Flat-topped rounds of toffee individually wrapped and sold in paper rolls. By the 70s, they came in all sorts of flavors. Original, mint, strawberry, chocolate, banana, rum and butter if you were feeling fancy. But what everyone remembers are the adverts. Wild West-themed commercials filmed in actual New Mexico, a cowboy squinting at the camera. The tagline that burned itself into a generation of brains. A man has gotta chew what a man has gotta chew. It was ridiculous. It was glorious. It made you feel like buying a packet of toffees was somehow an act of rugged frontier courage. Nestlé discontinued them in 2008. You can still find them in the United Arab Emirates apparently, but for the rest of us, the frontier has closed. Now, if Toffo made you feel like a cowboy, the next sweet made you feel like something else entirely, something cooler, something greener. Pacers launched in 1976 as a sister product to Opal fruits. Green and white striped spearmint chews that looked like nothing else on the shelf. The advert showed people ice skating in white, suddenly being struck by green. Their clothes transforming into stripes. The message was clear. Pacers were fresh. Pacers were different. And they turned your tongue green. Properly green. The kind of green that worried your mother until she realized what you had been eating. Celtic Football Club were nicknamed the Pacers for a while because their kit looked exactly like the sweets. That is how iconic they were. They disappeared in the 1980s. People have been asking for them back ever since. Some say they tasted like toothpaste dissolved in a swimming pool, and they mean that as a compliment. But before there were Pacers or Opal fruits, there was something else. Something that came before everything. Treats, melt in your mouth, not in your hand. That was the promise, and unlike most advertising promises, this one was actually true. Chocolate-covered peanuts with a crispy shell that somehow did not melt in your palm on a hot day. They came in brown packets. Simple, unpretentious, delicious. Now, you might be thinking, these sound familiar. And you would be right. When Mars discontinued Treats in the 1980s, they replaced them with M&Ms. Same concept, they said. Same basic idea. But the shells were thinner. The chocolate was different. Something essential had been lost in translation. Treats had a thickness to them, a substance. They felt like actual food, not just candy. Some things cannot be replaced. Some things should not even be tried. Speaking of things that cannot be replaced, there is a ghost that haunts British chocolate lovers. A phantom that existed for just 11 years before vanishing completely. Cadbury launched the Aztec bar in 1967. nougat and caramel wrapped in dark chocolate. Not milk chocolate, dark chocolate. That made it different from everything else on the shelf. It felt sophisticated. It felt mysterious. It felt like something an adult might eat, which of course made children want it even more. They discontinued it in 1978, just 11 years. Not enough time to become truly legendary, but more than enough time to be deeply missed. Some people say it was ahead of its time. That modern chocolate fans with their taste for dark chocolate and complex flavors would have loved it. We will never know. The Aztec remains buried somewhere in Cadbury history, lost like the civilization it was named after. But not every lost chocolate bar aimed for mystery. Some aimed for pure tropical escape. The Cabana bar arrived on British shelves wrapped in bright blue packaging covered in palm trees. Inside was something that promised to transport you somewhere warm: desiccated coconut, chewy caramel, and chunks of real glaced cherries, all of it covered in Roundtree's milk chocolate. The adverts used a version of Day-O the Banana Boat song. They promised tropical magic, and for once the adverts were not lying. For about a decade, you could stand in a grey British newsagent in the middle of February and taste something that felt like Caribbean sunshine. Then, in the early 1990s, it was gone. More than 1,000 people signed a petition to bring it back. It did not work. The Bounty Bar is still here, but it is not the same. It does not have the cherries. It does not have the caramel. It does not have the magic. Now we are entering the top 5. These are not just sweets. These are legends. And if you think what we have covered so far stirs up memories, just wait until you see what is coming at number 1. Mint cracknel was made by Macintosh, and the advert showed skiers gliding through pristine snow. Takes you somewhere cool and green, they said. And somehow, a chocolate bar managed to deliver on that promise. The center was crunchy, crystallized mint, not soft fondant like everything else, actual crispy mint that shattered when you bit into it, all of it wrapped in smooth milk chocolate. Popular throughout the 60s and 70s before being discontinued in the 90s. There was something almost medicinal about it, something clean and sharp that cut through the sweetness of the chocolate. Nothing else has ever quite matched that texture, that crunch, that sudden coolness spreading across your tongue. Some flavors you taste once and remember forever. But crunch is nothing compared to chew, and chew brings us to something that could keep you occupied for an entire afternoon. The Texan bar launched in 1973, nougat and toffee covered in milk chocolate. The advertising called it the Mighty Chew, and that was not an exaggeration. This was a chocolate bar you had to commit to. The toffee was so dense, so resilient, so magnificently chewy that eating one was a workout for your jaw. You could put it in the fridge and the thing would last an hour. The adverts featured a cartoon cowboy. Sure is a mighty chew, he would declare, while various villains tried and failed to interrupt his treat. It was withdrawn in 1984, but in 2004, a survey of British sweet shops named it the favourite sweet of all time by a large margin. Nestlé brought it back briefly in 2005 as a nostalgia edition. Then they took it away again. The cruelty of giving us a taste of what we had lost only to snatch it back. Some wounds never fully heal. Now we approach something extraordinary. Remember at the start when I mentioned a sweet that could fold space and time? I was not exaggerating. Fry's 5 Centers launched in 1934. A dark chocolate bar divided into 7 segments. But here is where it gets interesting. Each segment contained a different flavored fondant center. Raspberry, orange, lime, pineapple, sometimes coffee, sometimes black currant. The exact combination varied over the years, which was part of the magic. 7 segments, but only 5 flavors. which meant some segments had two flavors mixed together. Eating one was like a guessing game, a treasure hunt, a tiny adventure in every bite. What would you get next? Would the flavors clash or complement? Would you save your favorite for last or eat it first? Every bar was a story with a different ending. They discontinued it in 1992, reportedly because it was too expensive and complicated to manufacture all those different fondants, all that precision, all that joy. Too much trouble, apparently. There have been petitions, Facebook groups, people begging Cadbury to bring it back. One commenter wrote that Fry's 5 centers was too powerful. People who ate it were folding space and time and seeing the future. They were joking, probably. We are almost at the end now. 2 sweets left, both of them variations on the same legend, and that legend begins in 1950 with something that would define an entire era. Spangles launched at a very particular moment in history. Sweets were still rationed. Every purchase required tokens from your ration book, but Spangles only needed 1 token instead of the usual 2. That little detail combined with brilliant marketing made them an instant phenomenon. Square boiled sweets with a distinctive circular depression on each face, wrapped first in paper, then later in cellophane. Flavors that seemed to cover every possibility: strawberry, orange, lemon, blackcurrant, cola, acid drop, licorice, spearmint, and more. But it was the Old English variety that earned a special place in British hearts. Traditional English flavors, they called them: treacle, mint humbug, pear drop, aniseed, licorice. Each one wrapped with tiny stripes distinguishing them from regular Spangles. These tasted like something from another century, like sweets your grandmother might have eaten, like history itself, rendered in sugar. They were discontinued in 1984, briefly brought back in 1995 through Woolworths. Remember Woolworths. Another thing we have lost. The comeback did not stick. Too few flavors. And so we come to number 1, which is not really a different sweet at all. It is Spangles themselves, the original, the complete range, the entire experience of standing in a shop and choosing from a dozen different Spangles packets, knowing that whatever you picked would be exactly right. In 2008, a poll asked British consumers which discontinued brand they would most like to see return. Spangles topped the list. Not a particular flavor. The whole idea of Spangles, the colors, the shapes, the ritual of letting one dissolve slowly on your tongue instead of biting down, the way they came in tubes that you could roll up as you finished them, the 70s packaging with its groovy typeface that looked like something from Top of the Pops. Spangles were not just sweets, they were an era. They were the taste of post-war Britain finding its feet again. They were Saturday afternoons and pocket money, and the particular joy of something sweet melting slowly while you watched the world go by. They were us, and now they are gone. All of these sweets are gone. Polo fruits and Opal fruits and marathons with their proper names. Sherbet fountains in their cardboard tubes and Nutty bars in their crinkly cellophane. Toffo and Pacers and Treets, Aztec and Cabana and mint cracknel, Texan bars that made your jaw ache and Fry's 5 centers that made your brain work. Spangles in all their glorious variety. Gone from the shelves, but not gone from us. Because here is the thing about these sweets. They are not really about sugar and flavorings and E-numbers. They are about who we were when we ate them, the people we were with, the shops that sold them, the coins we counted, and the choices we made. Every sweet on this list is a memory, and memories cannot be discontinued. Which of these sweets do you miss most? Tell us in the comments below. Share this video with someone who walked the same path. Someone who remembers the jingle of the shop bell and the weight of warm coins and the impossible choice between one more Spangle or one more Toffo. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another trip down memory lane. Let us keep these stories alive together, because every memory is a piece of who we are, and some things are worth remembering forever.